So we've just driven the new Citroen C3, and now we're in conversation with brand head Saurabh Vatsa. Saurabh, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And an interesting drive in the car. A couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Let's begin with the fact that you guys, while everybody out there is aiming to call their car an SUV, you guys are choosing to be drastically different and call it a hatch with a twist. Hatchback segment has not been doing really exceptionally well. Any reason for this, and what's the thinking behind it?
Very clearly, like you said, we're being very honest and true to the form factor of the car. The car is sub 4 meter, and that's very unique for the country. Truly, it has got SUV stance and very clear SUV design elements on the car. 180 mm ground clearance, tall seating, theatre style seating at the back, a tall bonnet in the front, roofline which is pretty interesting, and lots of headroom inside. And that's all fundamentally based on feedback that we've got from the consumers. Therefore, it's better to be very clearly honest and say that yes, this is a sub 4 meter vehicle, hatch, but definitely a hatch with a twist. Like Vensakovi says, and this is with a lot of SUV stance and attitude.
Now, this is a car that you've aimed at being for the Indian market, which is very price conscious. But while being that price conscious, they expect their cars to come loaded with everything because they've been spoiled by brands now.
Sure.
So how difficult was this whole challenge of price versus features versus settling in on it, and what were the big challenges for you?
I think clearly when we started a couple of years ago, the good part was that we were configuring the platform in India with all the Indian teams, and therefore the challenge was clearly, which is very India unique, is being sub 4 meter. That was the first one, and then also coming out with a very bold, unique Citroen DNA design, which would be clearly a differentiator for this category. And while being true to the Citroen DNA, which is all about comfort and well-being and optimism and positivity, that had to reflect in what the vehicle was going to be. And I think the engineering teams have done a brilliant job. Design teams have done a very clear deliverable, which is that they've maintained the Citroen DNA. And the engineering teams have actually configured a vehicle that delivers on comfort. So when we say Citroen Advanced Comfort, C5 had a clear deliverable on that when it became the flagship model for the country last year. And the C3 now continues that legacy, however redefined, but yes, it delivers, and that will be a true differentiator for the vehicle in the category. So in terms of challenges, of course, also the other thing was that we wanted to be extremely high on localization for a very aggressive total cost of ownership. And with a 95% plus localization, you can imagine that we've actually developed a complete and a very robust vendor base in India with very good aggressive cost and quality, and which has taken time to kind of configure the whole thing, because normally you don't see a car which is getting launched at such a high level of localization. And then of course plenty of testing which has to go, every vehicle has to undergo in the country.
We see a lot of features that are offered, maybe this segment one above, one below, and we see that you've cut back on them. We understand that you want to give a very price effective product to the market, but how does this decision, what do you compromise? So, you given features, and was that, am I understanding you that you wanted the comfort, the suspension, that had predominance, and maybe the turbo engine over providing more features, and who takes that call? How did you all decide? Was it consumer survey? Was it something that the company chose to do? So how did you come to that decision?
Lots of questions you asked me in one. I'll break them up. First, like we said, we had the time to configure this platform in India. So we've gone to the consumer multiple times at various different stages of the product configuration, including multiple options of designs. We've also had multiple feature configurations shared with the consumer. We've had A versus B studies, that if you want this, what do you want to trade off? If you like something, would you like to have this or that? And all of those have given us a lot of confidence in the current configuration. Now, when we go to the young progressives, which is the target audience, very clear definitions of what they have in mind. First of all, they said simplify the range that you get on a model. So, they all came back and they said there are multiple options today from various OEMs, 12, 15, 16, 18, 20 options on one car, very complicated to buy. Can we have a shorter, tighter journey, because that's what we'd like to do. COVID has also helped us because people are making these decisions in a remote basis. They haven't gone to the showrooms. Having not gone to showrooms means that nobody was there to explain everything to them, because a lot of that configuration explanation happens at the shop level, which is where a lot of feedback, simplify your options, and at the same time a very strong voice from the young progressives that give us elements that we can configure ourselves. We don't want you to configure. So, we don't want a plain Jane car, and at the same time whatever we get, we would like to configure. So which is why a very strong emphasis on hashtag express your style, because it's all about these young progressives wanting to configure a car the way they want it. And which is where we have those 3 packs with 56 combinations and over 70 accessories at launch. And you can imagine, all of this didn't happen as the end of the program. This actually all happened along with the program, so that everything that we offer as packs and options goes straight onto the car. You don't have to kind of rip apart the car to put that. It's all configured, and people can do that.
But packs and options will be mostly cosmetic things. I'm saying a simple thing like, say, a rear wiper. In a country which faces quite a heavy monsoon, and these are challenges that we face. These are things that people have come to expect on a car. So that's not there. So
Sure.
Things like that is what I'm asking about, and there's no way to configure that, because that has to be
that's
right at the beginning.
No way to configure
exactly.
that. But interestingly, when you actually observe the usage of those, some of the elements which are you're bringing forth, you find the usage is practically very, very, very limited. And when you speak to consumers, they give you very interesting insights, whether it's on colors, whether it's on features. So it's not about, I feel strongly that we should have it. It's about what the consumer wants and what is he willing to not have instead of something else, right? At the end of the day, what's really important is to make sure that we get the value conscious buyer. He understands the Citroen brand promise. He understands the Citroen comfort and the Citroen advanced comfort meaning in this particular segment. We are going to offer a very robust service promise, which is going to be a differentiator from a European brand coming into the country, going into mainstream. We have various examples on C5, how we are delivering that versus some of the luxury players in the market, and live up to that promise in this segment, which is going to be fairly unique.
Next question to you is a big one. This is because they're gaining steam. More and more people are buying automatics. It's accounting for a lot of sales for manufacturers. No automatic at launch on the C3 as we see. Is that something that we can expect later? And why was this decision taken initially?
I think clearly the focus was to establish the CQ platform. We've been talking to you about the CQ platform for a couple of years now. The idea was to make sure that we get the C3 rolling with confidence, and also the big challenge that Citroen brand has is awareness, and get that going. Therefore, very clearly from our Hosur factory, we get 2 powertrain combinations right now, which is the PureTech 82 and the PureTech 110, which is the turbo engine. 5-speed on the naturally aspirated and a 6-speed on the turbo option. At the same point in time, there's a whole life cycle management along with the new generation of stuff which is going to come in on C-Cube. We've told you that there are multiple body styles that we're working on, and the BEV comes in next year. So there's a plethora of things which is in the pipeline at this point in time on the same platform, which is why we said, okay, let's launch this, focus on this, let it get established in the market. Like I said, a big part of Citroen challenges is driving the awareness, which is what we're going to push right now, and also then look at all these other options and features and upgrades.
Was pricing also a consideration? Because I
pricing
understand
in
that
India
everybody
is
wants
always a consideration.
And you've been saying that we're going to give you give a value offering, and then automatic raises that end of the spectrum. So
it's only natural. You know the market as well as anybody else does, maybe better. And pricing is always a consideration, and we've been working with that objective always, which is why, like I said, going to the consumer multiple times, that has been one big part of feedback that we wanted to build in when we are taking the choices on the vehicle.
And my last question, you spoke about creating awareness and raising awareness. That's one big part of a consumer's mindset in India is seeing the product, seeing the showrooms, seeing that, and you are looking at a digital experience. And how are you going to take this journey forward, and what can consumers expect, and how is that expansion going to happen?
multi-pronged answer to that one. First one, we've digitized a complete consumer journey, which is what we call the automatic journey, which is anytime, anywhere, any device, any content. Consumers can access that much before in their search journey, and then configure journey, and then actually finish that at our phygital La Maison Citroën showrooms. Second, that's one part of the consumer journey, which is all digitized. The second is, which digitization essentially is for enhancing the reach and awareness. People can reach out to us and see who we are and what we are doing and how we are doing, far ahead before they make a purchase decision. Second, when you look at the La Maison phygital setup today, we're expanding that. So we get to 20 dealerships by the launch of C3, 30 plus dealerships by end of the year, and then we are not stopping beyond that. We keep going because of the simple reason that CQ platform is now alive, up and running, and it's going to deliver all the products, and we keep expanding the network. The service network expands with that. Number three, something which is fundamental. Often people ask for reassurance on service side. You're a new brand, you're in a new country, how do we trust you? Therefore, what we've done with the La Maison Phygital Network and the La Atelier workshops is service on wheels. And that service on wheels, regardless of where you are in the country, if you own a vehicle, for service or for any minor repair that you want to call in service, you don't have to go to the nearest city. The vehicle comes to you. That service on wheel truck comes to you, and we provide that. At the same point in time, very important for word of mouth and consumer confidence is roadside assistance. And we guarantee 180-minute roadside assistance in majority part of the country. Imagine we operate from 11 locations, but we guarantee it in 180 minutes across the country, and we have living examples and lots of feedback from consumers who use that. We've had families from Surat using it in Ladakh, and we've actually delivered vehicles back in Surat. So these are little tiny steps that we're trying to make, very honest and very consumer oriented, so that people start talking about the brand rather than the brand advertising and getting away with mega spending and trying to reach out to people. But it's again different. It's a slightly different Citroen way of doing things, where we want consumers to start talking about us and talking good about us, and based on experience, not based on mega bucks that you invest in advertising.
Well, I wish you the best on this journey, and looking forward to the launch of the Citroen C3.
Thank you so much.